Good evening to you. My name is Chinemerem Joseph, and it's time for yet another informative edition of You and the Economy. In the past two successive editions, the program has been addressing the intervention of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, in the cocoa industry. In this edition, we bring you the concluding episode of the mini-series on the resolve of the bank to reposition the cocoa industry. In it, we will examine some of the suggestions proffered by some stakeholders for the CBN to consider in drawing up its road plan to drive the planned intervention in the cocoa industry in a holistic manner. You will also see that the objectives of the intervention of the CBN in the industry are achievable and that some are already coming to fruition. Here now is the concluding episode of the mini-series on the repositioning of the cocoa industry by the CBN. Happy viewing.
When you plant cocoa today, you must plant plantain, banana, because it needs a lot of shade. Without these shades, cocoa cannot survive. And that is why in this part of the world, they say cocoa, the plantain nurses the cocoa to maturity. And the cocoa complains that the plantain does not allow him to produce sufficiently.
So today, even when you look at the opportunities in the cocoa value chains, in the cocoa supply chains, you look at it, there is huge billions of dollars opportunities.
One of the major problems in the cocoa sector is the processing facilities.
Plantations, the large-scale farming estates that specialize in the growing of agricultural commodities, especially cash crops, are hardly established as favorite pastimes. Rather, plantations are usually established to satisfy core business objectives. And the foremost of such objectives is usually the age-old profit motive. Cocoa plantations follow this business model too. In Nigeria, the core objective of big-time cocoa farmers is to export cocoa beans overseas to generate foreign exchange and improve their personal fortunes. Indeed, reports indicate that the Netherlands is the highest importer of Nigeria's cocoa beans, importing about 45% of Nigeria's annual outputs of the commodity. The Republic of Germany and Malaysia are also major importers of Nigeria's cocoa beans. Other countries in that league include Spain, Italy, Belgium, Luxembourg, and China. The cocoa beans are usually exported from Nigeria in raw and unprocessed form by chocolate processing and confectionery plants in those importing countries to make chocolate bars and other cocoa-based products. These end products are in turn exported by these buyer countries to other countries, including Nigeria. And that marketing model, whereby raw cocoa beans are exported from Nigeria overseas to be used as inputs to make processed products, is where cocoa farming in Nigeria appears to have gotten it wrong. It is, indeed, one of the reasons why cocoa farming went into the decline in the country, especially after the abolition of commodity boards in 1986, a development that gave farmers more latitude to dispose of their produce as they deemed fit. Unfortunately, since they have no say in determining the price of cocoa in the international market, many Nigerian cocoa farmers have continued to reap poor returns in their projected foreign exchange earnings from their endeavors in cocoa farming. Sadly, too, their disadvantaged position is often aggravated by some untoward practices in the production value chain, which ultimately compromise the quality of the cocoa beans bagged for exports. This results in significant price reduction in the international market. And, as a result of declining incomes, interest in cocoa farming waned significantly, thus accentuating the downturn in Nigeria's annual cocoa output. For the CBN intervention in the cocoa industry to increase output in exponential proportions, experts are of the view that farmers should be made to abandon old marketing practices and adopt a new and more profit-oriented approach. This new path lies in collaborating with other stakeholders in the cocoa value chain to add value to their cocoa beans and thus enhance their value and prices in the international market. Observers believe that once improved earnings from exports of finished and semi-finished cocoa products are guaranteed, as against the current lackluster performance of unprocessed cocoa beans in the international market, those cocoa farmers who had abandoned their plantations will go back to resume cultivation, thus helping to boost output.
We have about 5% of our cocoa beans being processed locally, which is something that is not good enough. It is important we add value to the cocoa beans we are producing rather than just selling the raw beans. When you add value, you gain a premium. You tend to get more money when you add value to the cocoa beans.
Value addition in Nigeria is zero. And that is why most of our stakeholders cocoa believes in exportations. Now let me just export, but as long as we are doing that, what value do we get? Why do we be a producer of the raw materials? What advantage does it give to us? When you look at the total value of cocoa trade, it is adjudged statistically that you get just the maximum you can get is 6% if you are just producing raw and exporting it. Nigeria as of today is exporting 90% of our cocoa beans safely. How do you think an average farmer will break even? So we use all what we have to service other person's country's economy. We create opportunities, we create employment opportunities for other nations, the European nations. We should take the bull by the horn. We should be able to face it that it is unacceptable to continue to export our beans. It must be what? We must look inward.
As its description, value addition, patently suggests, the value of raw cocoa seeds can only be enhanced if the seeds are processed. And this much desired phenomenon can only be achieved at cocoa processing industry. Unfortunately, the cocoa processing arm of the cocoa production value chain in Nigeria is in a near comatose state. Unlike the situation some decades ago, most of the cocoa processing industries in Nigeria today exist in name only, as they are no longer in meaningful operation. And the very few ones that are in production are operating at well below total installed capacities. The jury is still out on which one led to the other, whether it is the penchant of cocoa farmers to upload practically all their cocoa output in its raw state for the export market that led to the poor state of cocoa processing arm of the cocoa production value chain in Nigeria, or it is the poor state of that vital arm itself that encouraged farmers into the habit to upload their yield almost solely for exports. But regardless of which one had led to the other, the fact remains that the cocoa processing arm of the cocoa production value chain in Nigeria is in dire straits. And it takes no rocket science to know that this ailing arm must be revived if the intervention of the CBN in the cocoa industry must succeed. 4. Processing is the channel through which meaningful employment generation can be achieved in the industry. It is also the veritable path to take in encouraging and convincing cocoa farmers that they can make more money through the readily available market offered by processing plants in the domestic economy for their cocoa beans. Engineer Dikpo Ogumolu is the technical director of John Vance Industries Limited, a cocoa processing company based in Akure, capital of Ondo State. A veteran of close to 40 years in the cocoa processing industry, Ogumolu has garnered rich and diverse experience working in cocoa processing and chocolate industries in Nigeria and in some European countries. He explains why it is important for ailing cocoa processing companies in Nigeria to be revived to make the intervention of the CBN in the industry to succeed. He also speaks on what the Cocoa Processors Association of Nigeria is doing to ensure the revival of the industry.
When these factories are running, when in full production, we will engage no less than about 800 workers, 800 to 1,200 workers when in full production. And then down the line, a whole chain of orders, vehicle bringing in cocoa in, people in company importing jute bags for cocoa, people import agricultural chemical for cocoa, all the way down. So all the way down to those who hawk this cocoa product, cocoa, Chocomilo, Choco product, cowbell, and the like, Choco cowbell. By the time you look at the chain links, when we talk about 1,200 employees, you are talking about maybe 8,000 for just one factory. And when you have such, and we are going to expand our product, Cocoa Processors Association, COPAN, Cocoa Processors Association Nigeria. It's a body of all the processors. We meet, we sit down. We have even approached government on at various stages, for assistance and intervention, because I will tell you that we are competing with factories in Europe. The European factories don't want us to process it. They want us to ship the raw cocoa beans to them. So by processing to semi-state before we export, we are denying them the expansion of the industries. We are increasing the number of unemployed youths. We are also gaining technology. The greatest support processors will require from government is by way of if we can be given duty waivers on our machineries and spares, it will help us. It will not only help processors, it helps the country as well.
The capacity to produce more cocoa powder, we have it. The capacity to produce chocolate, we have it. Cocoa liquor, we have it. Cosmetics, we have it. Why are we not doing it? Let me tell you, if you are able to go to almost all the cocoa processing factory in Akure, you go there, not performing. In Leluji, not performing. The CBN has to look into most of these moribund processing factories, because we know that many of them have these financial challenges. There should be a windows opportunity for most of these processing factories. There should be a kind of a managerial systems, hepatitis systems that the CBN can also bring out to look into why there are challenges in our processing factories in Nigeria. But the major issues are what? The finance. And that is the major thing. The CBN should be able to set up a committee and look into some of those issues. I do know that some of them have approached CBN. The CBN should go into this. The CBN should not run away from it.
This is a common sight on most of the cocoa plantations in the country. Long stretches of aging and aged trees. Some plantations are dominated by trees that are as old as 5 decades or even more, reflecting the fact that cocoa farming dates back to the pre-independent era. As it is usual with nature, with old age comes declining productivity. And it has been so with many cocoa trees in cocoa plantations in the country, thus worsening the problem of declining outputs in the industry. Rejuvenation of old cocoa trees which still have the capability to bear pods is therefore essential in ensuring the success of the intervention of the CBN in the cocoa industry. This will complement the aggressive deployment of high-yielding planting materials to promote the desired results. Fortunately, the Cocoa Research Institute of Nigeria, CRIN, is endowed with the technology to rejuvenate old cocoa trees to boost their yields. Indeed, the procedure has been performed on some of the old cocoa trees in its plantation, as these telltale signs indicate, and its perfection has put CRIN in good stead to aid the success of the intervention of the CBN in the cocoa industry.
We can be involved in helping to rehabilitate most of the old and moribund cocoa farms in the country. Like I've said earlier on, one of the reasons is that the cocoa plantations are old, the farmers are old. But at least we can rehabilitate those cocoa plantations with collaboration with the CBN. For cocoa plantations that are old and moribund, what we do is to rehabilitate them by co-piecing, pruning all those overgrown cocoa trees, and which we normally call co-piecing, and then bringing them to life again, and they become more productive than before. So those methods we have those technologies within the institute. We have the scientists that are here on ground and that are ready to do that with collaboration with CBN, if it is possible.
Remember the high-yielding planting materials developed by CRIN, which we told you are early bearing? Top officials of the institute believe that if developed en masse, the high-yielding planting materials can be cultivated in moribund plantations too, to bring the farming estates back to life and boost yield.
If Central Bank empower CRIN, it can produce this planting material in large quantity, give it to the farmer to replace the old varieties that will take up to 5 years before it will be fruiting. Besides that, the capacity for this TC series to produce is very high compared to what we have on the field. So all those moribund cocoa plantations, we can replant them with these new varieties. If we are empowered, we can train farmers how to do face-out replanting by planting under the old ones, the new varieties, and when that one take, they will remove the old one. Or we can even graft the old one, put this new one there, and the plant will continue the life and producing the new varieties.
Although it sounds simplistic, leveraging on Nigeria's huge population of 230 million people to boost cocoa output is nonetheless practicable and has the potential of being a game changer in increasing total yield of cocoa production in the country. This would be a classical case of anchoring on the huge demand potentials offered by Nigeria's humongous population to drive product supply. According to some key stakeholders, this can be achieved by embarking on advocacy programs to encourage the consumption of cocoa products such as cocoa beverages and chocolates, especially among children of impressionable age brackets and even among adults too. It is believed that such a campaign will encourage cocoa farmers and processors to latch onto the vast market opportunities it shall trigger to ramp up output, thus elevating Nigeria's position to a higher level on the list of cocoa-producing nations. The idea of encouraging massive consumption of cocoa products domestically is equally regarded as a viable strategy that could give Nigeria a strong voice in determining the price of cocoa products in the international market. And here is the reason why. Presently, the mechanism for determining the price of Nigeria's cocoa beans in the international market operates in favor of consumers of the produce overseas, who are mostly producers of cocoa-based products. This is because these end users leverage on knowledge of the fact that Nigerians hardly consume refined cocoa products in large quantities, and if cocoa farmers in the country do not settle for whatever price is dictated for their cocoa beans in the international market, the products may well perish in Nigeria. Cocoa farmers in Nigeria are therefore practically forced to accept whatever price that the international market dictates for their cocoa beans. Experts believe that if consumption is ramped up at home, end users in the overseas market will sit tight, knowing that Nigeria finally has, within her national boundaries, enough market for their cocoa beans, and that they may be denied of the prized produce if they continue to play hardball by fixing prices that are detrimental to the interest of Nigeria and our cocoa farmers for cocoa beans in the international market.
Let us encourage local consumption of cocoa beverages that are made from cocoa. Looking at the school feeding program, we can incorporate that into the school feeding program. We can catch them young. Once they become used to consuming cocoa beverages, which is known to have a lot of health benefits, then it will be very difficult for the international body or our international importers, those that are buying our cocoa, to now dictate the price of how much they will buy our cocoa. If you have high local consumption, I think that will encourage more farmers. It will encourage more production, and we'll get more money from it locally.
If you produce everything for export, and we're not encouraging people to consume what you produce, the advantage will still be skewed to the consumers in Europe and America. So by the time we start encouraging our people to consume this, then gradually we'll free ourselves from the yoke of these people. We'll be able to dictate this cocoa, this is how much we're going to sell it. If you don't want to buy it, somebody else will buy. But today they will dictate to us, we are going to buy this cocoa at this price.
As the release of the CBN's roadmap for stimulating finance to the cocoa industry and ensuring its structural transformation is being awaited, it is obvious that all stakeholders are primed for action to play the roles expected of them in repositioning the industry and restoring its glory. And one thing is certain, Nigeria's cocoa plantations are set to witness a reinvention like they had never experienced in the past couple of decades, and which will bring resounding benefits to the Nigerian economy. With that, we've come to the end of the mini-series on the intervention of the CBN in the cocoa industry. For more information on the intervention programs of the CBN and other key policies and programs of the bank, please log on to the CBN website. It's www.cbn.gov.ng, or call the CBN Contact Center on 0700-225-5226. To join us again next week on the program when we focus on yet another exciting subject. Until then, it's bye-bye.